His teacher was paralysis. Her teacher was addiction. With love, they found each other. You are here now for the Conscious Couple podcast.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Even though you haven't had a break from us, we've had a break from you. We have actually been gone for 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, 2 weeks, skiing in beautiful Utah, in Eden, Utah. And so this is our
Can't
first...
say that.
Can't say that? Oh, yeah. Sorry. The number one rule.
They're very secret.
We were not skiing
place
in Utah.
Right.
We were skiing in an undisclosed location.
Yes. No one wants to know that. Okay, what are we talking about today?
So for our first
doing?
episode back and to really bring 2023 in with a bang, we thought we would talk about today something that was a struggle of both of ours that we went through and that we see is a huge struggle and question in the spiritual community. And so what we're going to talk about today is when you have had an awakening of sorts, you start to go down this path, but you are in a relationship where your partner does not. And I know for you and for me, that was a really, really big struggle of ours and a huge pain point and something we had to navigate. And through our coaching work in the last 4 years, through the community we were in, we saw so many people go through this. Tons and tons and tons of people go through this. So we thought, what a better way to bring in 2023 than to talk about something that we know highly impacts a lot of our community and our viewers. So that's what we're going to be discussing today, honey.
All right, so I guess I have to start this off with, because we got to get right into it here.
We got to get right into it. Or should we talk about your new hat?
I love my new hat.
You can't see it if you're listening.
I love it.
That's the disadvantage of
I'm
not watching
not.
on
I
YouTube.
was never a hat guy. I
No.
never was a hat guy. I have beautiful, luxurious, luscious hair.
Yes, you do.
I've never had,
do.
to hide anything or anything like that. So I've never really wore hats. I was into visors. I did like my visor.
Yes, you were
But
a
then,
visor guy.
I don't know what happened. One day I just put on a hat and
Yeah, I
it's
remember
kind of
that.
weird. It's like, it's just kind of part of
Yeah.
me now.
You really
So
liked it.
I stole this from my son.
And you ran with that because now you have like...
I do. I have
25
lots of
million
hats.
hats.
But I love it. And this one I stole from my son, and it's the Wyoming Marching Band hat.
Yeah, so
I'm
for
very
those of
proud
you who can't see...
of my theft,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of
a
what
great
it represents. So
Wyoming
that's
hat.
all good. And again, we've gotten off on a tangent here. So
hat.
what is the number one thing? What is the number one when you are faced in this situation of all the people that we have, ourselves included, helped navigate this? What is the number one thing that
I'm moving closer to
you must do in order to move down this road where you don't fit in anymore to your job, to your relationship because of this awakening process? What is the number one thing that you must do? Go ahead, please. The answer.
You're asking me for the
I'm
answer?
asking you for the very simple, very short answer. And if you don't know it, I'll give it to you.
What is the number one thing you must do
Yes.
is continue.
No. You have to value yourself.
Okay.
How,
I failed.
Is that right?
I failed. You have to value
You
yourself?
failed. Yeah, I believe you have
Okay,
to.
how about this? You'll do
Okay.
your number one thing.
All
I'll
right,
do
go
my
ahead.
number one thing.
We'll do it that way.
Okay. So what's the number one thing you have to do when you realize you don't fit anymore, you've had an awakening and people around you haven't? I would say to keep going at all costs, no matter what.
Well, for sure. But I think in getting to that place of I need to keep going with this, because for sure you have to. There's no turning back.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but there is no turning back. You have to value yourself. I think most of the time we look at our relationships, we change as people. you know? And when you talk about being in a relationship for a very long time and two people aren't moving in the same direction, because listen, you know, there's your life and your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And am I happy being who I am right
Yeah.
now? I know that was a big one for you.
Really? Yeah.
You have to get to a point to where you say, okay, I'm so uncomfortable that nothing else matters at this point other than I need to be comfortable. I need to find out what this is in me, and I need to explore that. And that can go two different ways when you are in a relationship. And again, this can be any relationship. This can be a relationship with a partner. It can be a relationship with financial. It can be a relationship with your job, with your
friends.
career, with your friends.
Yeah.
You need to, in my best advice, you have to value yourself and what you're going through. That's number one, because when you have that value in yourself, you will give yourself the opportunity, the time, and the forgiveness to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's that prefaces what? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't.
think you had that.
It prefaced what you said was you got to keep going. But you have to value what you're going through. You have to know that many, many, many other people have gone through this and are going through this. So you are not alone in this, but it is a singular journey. And it's best to have guidance, without a doubt. It's best to have people communicate with people who are and have going through and navigating this challenge. But if you are in a situation that it's kind of like, as I love to refer to as a zit.
If you haven't watched our previous episodes, you'll know his affinity with zits.
Well, if the pressure is there, then the zit pops. And that means you come out of this life that you think you are. You know, this person, this ego that you think you are, and that's a whole nother step.
Yeah. I think, like, from the feminine perspective of that too, like, I love that, like, you valuing yourself. And for men, that's really important. And then I think in the feminine perspective of that same thing, just in a slightly different way of looking at it, is putting the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yeah,
like, that was the biggest thing that I had to learn early on, is like, as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, culture tells us you are to take care of those things first and foremost. And if you take care of yourself first, you're selfish.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a huge lesson for me in the beginning. And because we're so used to needing outside confirmation, like you said, that if we don't value ourselves first in our own journey, we give that power away to our spouse or to our friends. And so what creates the friction is that you are changing and they are not. They didn't sign up to want to change. You did.
Yeah.
And so with that, you have to understand that when you begin to change and somebody doesn't, it's not up to them for you to have the permission to continue to change. That's what we tend to want to do, right? We want permission from our spouses, from our partners.
Well, for sure. We want acceptance of, this is what I'm going through. Oh, sure, honey.
Yeah.
I'm right here for you. Whatever you need, I'm all about it.
Meanwhile, they're not strong enough to do that for themselves. So they can't give you something they can't give themselves.
They're not strong enough. It's just that it's not in the cards for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's we want them to change with us, but the fact of the matter is, the person who originally built that relationship, you are not that person anymore. So you're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, because you are not the person that you were when you started the relationship, when you attracted this person. So here's the first thing. Well, I guess it's the second thing on the list, is this is kind of good news, because if you don't fit in this relationship, and let's say that let's see, I will call her Susie. Okay, so let's say Susie is is awakening, and she is in a 15-year relationship, and the person that she once was, she does not want to be anymore, and she's waking up. Well, everybody that has been brought into her life to this point is based on Susie, who she was, and not who she is now. So when you start driving a faster car, you may go on better roads, and the old back roads don't work so well for a Ferrari.
Great
So
analogy.
it is. It's the analogist has stepped in.
Yes.
So you really just have to look and step back and kind of take all of this, and we all suffer the guilt of, well, I've been told by my parents and society that once you're married for life, and that's it. You're going to have to navigate all those challenges and all those voices that may or may not be real or right. So that's why I say, if you value yourself and you value your feeling of what you feel on a day-to-day basis, you know what isn't working for you. It's scary to change it. That's a different story. But you need to know, when you know this is not working for you, or this person I can't have this conversation with, well then, I would guess to say, unless that person changes, which can be a rare occurrence. It happens for sure.
Happen. Mm-hmm.
People do, because they value the relationship so much.
For
and
sure.
She's going down this path, and I don't understand it. I better start to try to understand this. Or she's just lost her mind and has joined a cult, and now is going to, chase butterflies for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Right. And now I don't have time for that. I don't want that in my life. So.
Yeah. So I think, like, a couple things I want to stay here, and I'm gonna share a little bit about my experience, and then I think you should yours, because it's important for our listeners to hear about our experiences. But for me, so when I started down this path, this spiritual awakening, inner work, whatever the hell words you want to give it. My partner, I've been married for about 10 years, and this was something brand new. It's not like I was into this world before. It was something brand new. And as I literally started practicing different things and opening my mind to different concepts, I thought, oh, this will bring us closer, when in fact it kept bringing us further apart. And I was in so much distress I wanted somebody to give me an answer if I should stay or if I should leave. Like, I had been conditioned so much not to trust my own intuition and my own inner voice, that I needed somebody to tell me what to do. Only that voice never came from the outside.
Let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah.
So, and obviously I know your story. So this is the question I would ask you, and someone at home who's watching this may be for them. We call it distress, but what caused this sudden distress? Can I answer for you? I'll answer anyway. It's the awakening process itself.
Yeah.
So suddenly you start to feel this freedom.
Yeah.
You're in this dark cage with a cover over it, and suddenly there's...
I'm 0 for 2 today.
Oh, and you are... Suddenly light has gotten in.
Yeah.
And this light feels so amazing, because, you've been in this dark cage for so long, and the light is warmth, and you want to just find this little patch of light and sit in it and bathe in it and get it on your face and to feel it. That's what causes the distress, because it's not the light that's distressing. It's the darkness that the light never got to see.
Yeah.
So now you're experiencing this high. Mm-hmm. This heart opening, this side of you that is new, that now it's clear to you, holy shit, I'm in a cage of darkness.
Yeah.
This is my problem. The light is where I need to go, and I need to leave this darkness.
Yeah.
That's what the distress is.
1,000,000,000%.
You're welcome.
And I will say that deep down inside, I for sure knew that this marriage was not healthy from the beginning, that this was not my forever person. I was not the person I wanted to be.
Yeah,
right.
You weren't your forever person.
Right. I was not my forever person.
So how can you... That's the crazy thing. How can you... have
Of
a
course.
forever person when you're not your
Of
forever
course.
person.
Like I had in my marriage a direct attraction of the frequency that I was in. So it wasn't his fault or my fault. It was attraction.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Like literally energetic attraction. That was all that was. And of course, we're fearful. Like if I actually admit that now this light is coming in and this is who I'm starting to become and be and love and what does that mean? Does that mean I have to leave and divorce? And then now all of a sudden, okay, people are going to say I'm just like my mom. I'm getting divorced. I'm leaving. Like all of these things.
See, that's why it's so crazy. And here's why. Because again, this is the story that runs in our head because we have this belief of you get married once and then that's it.
Yes.
Because it's a sacred union. And so if you were, let's say 20 years ago, you started a career in accounting because at the time you went to school for it, you kind of like numbers, and you had a lot of different life experiences along those 20 years, and one day you just woke up and you told your best friend, you know what, I really just don't like what I do anymore. I don't like the company I work for. I don't like the boss.
I've outgrown it.
The people, I mean, they're accountants, so all they do is talk numbers all day. And I want more. I want more variety. I want more energy in my life. I want more excitement. And just staring at these papers full of numbers isn't that for me anymore. So if I was your best friend, I would say, oh, well, duh, if you're not happy in the thing that you do most in your life, then you should change it. So what's your ideas? But as soon as we bring that in, when that job becomes another person, it becomes a completely different story.
Yeah.
Because then we have the judgment, our judgment, rolling through our brain saying, well, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
You just can't run off and be happy. You just can't go
And if you do,
explore.
you're a bad person.
Well, then, because we call ourselves a bad person.
Yeah.
We think all these people are saying all these things when maybe they're saying them to themselves.
Yeah.
And
They are.
Maybe they think,
It's just a repeat.
What, man, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able. So what is it that helps someone cross that finish line? And that to me is you have to build who you think you now are. You have to move in that direction. You have to step into the light. You have to lighten enough that you can leave the darkness and not feel guilt for leaving the darkness. And it doesn't mean everybody in your life is dark, nothing like that. This is a life that you created, you built.
Yeah.
And now you're changing.
Yeah.
So it's the change.
And here's the thing, like that we have always, like the number one rule that we'll share with you guys today that hopefully will help you navigate if you're in this situation, because it is really common. And here's the thing, it doesn't just happen in spiritual awakenings. It happens for people who decide to lose a bunch of weight because they literally have to become somebody else. And it happens with people who quit smoking, who quit a shopping addiction. Like when you are making a major change in your life, you're going to lose people because the people that you have are in an energetic match of who you have been.
Yes.
So here's the thing that we always, number one rule that we have told people, every single person that has come into one of our coaching courses, either separate or together, that there are only two possibilities when you start down this road and you continue down this road. Number one, the person will fall away. And if you think about this, like if you even just keep emotion out of it and you think about this in terms of pure energy and frequency, okay? Because I'm assuming everybody that's listening agrees that we live in an energetic reality, right? So everything's energy. So if you look at it from purely at energetic resonance, I was in resonance, you were in resonance at a certain space. And the people in our life matched that resonance. So like attracts like, right? Frequency attracts frequency. So we were at this frequency and these people were matching that. When we begin to change our frequency, we turn our radio station. We're now higher, lower, whatever. There's no hierarchy. It's just different, a different radio station. Then those people that cannot match that frequency have to fall away. purely, unemotionally, just energetics.
Yeah, but that's the difficulty, because people, well, I built this life and this person
Sure.
and this
Well,
family.
hold on. Let me finish that.
10-4.
Let me finish that thought.
10-4.
Or number two, the other possibility is that those people also change their frequency to match yours.
Sure.
So in other words, they change their radio station as well. And if you think about it, both outcomes are the best outcomes for everybody involved. Because if the person is happy at their frequency, why should they change? It's not up to them. You're the one that decided to change.
For sure. But
right?
that's we are built into a world that your actions affect other people.
That's what we're told. Anyway.
Right. That's exactly
I
what
don't
we're
believe
told.
that. But...
And a lot of people go through life of, well, if you're in my life, then I need you to be in my life for me to be happy.
Yeah.
For me to be angry at, to be frustrated at, right? I need you to be that person for me. Whereas if we would all just find this thing in ourselves and know that it's not the love from somebody else that we're looking for it, even though it's amazing and it's fantastic, you have to have that love in yourself to see that love from somebody else.
Yeah.
So it all starts with you.
Yeah.
It all starts
100%.
with you as the individual and stepping into becoming your greater new self, or whatever the fancy woo-woo terms are, future self or whatever. Yeah, it basically boils down to one thing. Are you proud of who you are today? And if that answer is yes, fantastic, keep going. If that answer is no, then you need to find out, why am I not? And you have a choice in that way, because if the answer is no, I am not, then you have a choice. Do I go after that? Do I go try to find that happiness, that satisfaction in my own self, in my own heart? Or do I not even open that door? Do I just keep living in the life that I'm living that is maybe not even necessarily unhappy, but unfulfilling?
Unfulfilling, yeah.
And if that's your answer, that's great. That's fine. I mean, that's a fine answer. But I think there's going to be a time in your life that you're going to, and that question could be different from when you're 30 to when you're 70, right? Or 60 or 50. Right. That's when, when people, it was always a thing of midlife crisis. That's kind of what he's just having a midlife crisis. The midlife crisis was, I wasn't happy with who I was. That was my midlife crisis. A fucking vet wasn't going to do it. A boat wasn't going to do it. It was only me that was going to do it. And somehow I stumbled upon this community, or, I guess community, that kind of fueled that, desire to become more, to become greater, because they wanted to become more. They wanted to become greater.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's just getting clear on the answer and who you are. And no matter what, it's going to be uncomfortable. Staying or going, it's going to be uncomfortable.
I just want anyone listening to know that you're listening to two people here who went through the muck of that. We know how challenging it is to be in that position, to, like you said, all of a sudden experience all of this amazingness and to start to become the person that maybe you always knew you wanted to be. At least for me, that's how it was, while you meet so much resistance in your life. And I think the thing that you have to understand, at least hopefully that will help a little bit, is just to understand that you're changing the relationship, which brings up their own stuff, and it puts a mirror in front of their face, and most people aren't ready to look in that mirror. You, like he said, the zit has to be so big that it's ready to pop, and not a lot of people are. And I think the full circle that you finally start to make after going through, spiritual processes is kind of like you get to a place of more of compassion. Like, I get it. We took the red pill, and man, the red pill is a wild ride.
Well, it's the Tony Robbins, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, right? So even the spouse that's being left behind, so to speak, is forced to grow.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, so
absolutely.
If I'm not happy, then I don't know how you can be happy, because you're living with me.
Yeah.
So what is it? And I think the first thing, as the person who has been left that doesn't fit this new energetic self that you may be, is to hold on and to, why are you doing this or changing? And there's no answer for that. No. There's no answer. You can't answer that. Why do I feel this way? I couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
All I knew is I couldn't pursue it in the place that I was. I knew I had to pursue it from a place, an elevated place, a place that I felt energy in, that I felt excitement in, and that's where I stepped.
And to quote another Tony Robbins, I remember early on in my journey listening to a lot of Tony Robbins, especially around relationships and this very thing. And there was two things that were really common themes, not just from him, but other people, was that, like, when you begin to change, sadly enough, the closest people to you, friends and family, are the ones that usually create the most resistance and hate it the most.
Sure.
And the number two thing is, if you are in a marriage, that if you both don't decide and make it a priority of personal growth, you will get divorced at some point, because people do change and grow. That's what happens.
Well, for sure. Or you divorce yourself.
You divorce yourself, right?
You're turning your back against growth, and that's why it's really, it's so, when you really look at marriage and all that, it really is so
antiquated.
Oh my goodness. Only because of, how it's not easy finding somebody to go through life with that you're never going to change for, because you're going to change.
Yeah.
You're going to change.
Yeah.
Life experiences, desires, they all change. So that is a really hard life to live when you don't fit in that I am never allowed to change paradigm.
Yeah.
Yeah. To where this is, no, let's find that love inside you and not out through your eyes into the environment, and this person is what makes me feel good. No, that has to come in from inside of you.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it gets really, really hard for people, because either they're not strong enough because they're kind of a babe in the new world of, awakening and all that stuff.
A babe.
Huh?
That was very sweet.
A baby.
A babe. A baby.
No, a baby. A baby. Because you are. It's so new and it's so exciting and it's so freeing, and then you have this thought, well, it must be wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's taking me away from who I once was, that I know I'm not. So again, you have a choice. Do you stay in the person that you once were? And that has to be good enough. And again, no judgment here.
Well, so let me ask you that.
That's not an easy, it's not an easy.
Let me ask you a question now.
Sure, surely.
Since that's the topic of this week's call, is the question to you, which was the question I was asking, was, hey, Scott, I've had a spiritual awakening. I'm changing. My partner isn't. It's creating distress. Do I stay or do I leave?
Well, that's a very personal question. All I can tell you is my experience, what I went through, the good and the bad, and other people that I have helped, guide or listen to how they were stuck and how to navigate it, And again, this isn't, if it's 1,000-step process, you don't take one step. It's step after step after step after step after step, because each step there's clarity, right?
Yeah.
So every move that you take, every decision that you make, there's clarity in that decision of, okay, so do I go to the right? Do I go to the left? Or do I just keep going straight? Do I turn around? What do I do? And you really have to almost ask yourself that after each step. And to, I've watched it in all ways. Personally, I've watched it, with clients and, a lot of times the person that gets left behind, they find their new brilliant self because, let's be honest, we're comfort. We like comfort. Sure. We like no change.
Our brains are wired for it.
Yeah. We don't want change. And that might have been easier, in the last 50 years. But today, obviously, there's something going on. There's some changes happening. I mean, there's some energetic shift and, without getting too woo-woo into all that. But I think that's where we get bogged down into it's one or the other. You know what I mean? It's a step. It could be, today and that's it. Or I don't know. And then it's just like, okay, clarity. I need the 1,000-step clarity in order to know my decision, which I may not know for another 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's all okay. Yeah. It's all good. I mean, I would think if you're changing, if you are happy in your relationship and you two have been together for 20 years and you are both in love as the day that you met, fantastic.
Right.
You are winners.
Yeah.
But if you are a person that you are changing internally and you suddenly find yourself in an environment in which you do not fit in, fantastic. That's great. You've won the lottery because you're growing.
Yeah. And you have clarity.
And you
Clarity's the best thing.
You may require more.
Yeah. But
you have clarity. Yeah. And that's the thing of, you can always say, I should have. And we've heard this. But man, I've been in the position now at the age that I am that I have had those events where I should have, right? And, I'm very happy with where I am now and the decisions that I have made and the life that I live. But it's still, there's always going to be those things that, well, I wish I would have. And very rarely is it stayed in the old shit that I was in, you know? Very rarely is it that. It's I wish I would have took this chance. It's the person that you interview, who's laying in their deathbed, and what do you wish?
Yeah, the five.
Yeah, what are you happy with? Yeah. What aren't you happy with? And it's always, it's always the ones. Well, it's not going to be. I wish I spent more time at the office or shit like that. That's always one of those.
The number one regret of the dying was I wish I would have done the things.
Yeah, done the things that I wanted to do, that I set myself up for, because we always said, well, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'll tell you, it's interesting now because it's almost impossible when you have this awakening process to push it off until tomorrow because it becomes so uncomfortable. And it's just like, all right, he says he doesn't want to go. Well, turn the heat up. Turn the heat up. Set the darkness meter to a lot more dark.
Right.
Because
more uncomfortability.
He's bigger. The zit that doesn't want to pop. And to clear it, it has to pop. So,
and I think that's, where both of us were at that point. I know for me, like, the women I work with, many of them are in this situation. And one of the things that I always say is I actually left from a place of love, not from a place of anger or fear. And how that doesn't really sound like it makes sense, but what I mean was I was so in love with myself.
Well, with who you were, who had been unveiled to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The you that has been unveiled to you. You were so in love with the idea of what that person looked like, meaning you.
Yes.
That was the rope that pulled you so hard.
And it wasn't like I wasn't scared. I had no idea what I was going to do.
Right.
My mom and I had just opened up a retail shop. Like I had no answers.
Yeah.
But I just knew then that was the next step. I knew it within my heart and soul. That was the next step. It wasn't that I wasn't scared. It was just, I was so in love, like you said, with this new version of myself and what was to become of her, that I knew I could not stay there anymore. I could not become that person in that environment, and that environment and those people did not match who I was becoming. And so I think if you are in this situation and you're asking yourself, what do? I think getting really quiet and stopping the chatter of all the voices around you, because that will interfere with your own intuition. And if you just get really quiet and you ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid of what people will think, if I wasn't afraid of money, if I wasn't afraid of these things, would I stay in this relationship? And sometimes that answer is hard to hear yourself, because then you kind of know you have to make a decision.
Then the challenge comes. What do I do?
Right, right.
So to boil it all down, to give somebody some clarity and some answers, 3 steps. What can we give them? 3 steps. They found themselves in this awakening journey, the awakening, and their partner doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Or isn't on that road, because we know people who have made it really work for them.
Absolutely.
And
the partner came right up there with them.
And their partner didn't quite understand it.
No.
But they just said, "Well, look, I love you.
Yep.
So I'm right here.
100%.
And babe, if you need to go and do this, then you go and do this, and I'll be right here by your side. I don't need to. It's not my path. It's not whatever."
Yeah.
And that's amazing to watch. I've watched it, and it really is. It's really, really
amazing. It takes strength from the
then
partner.
you see it start to spill over.
Yeah.
The spillover effect happens because for somebody to say that, they have to be open and they have to have some self-awareness, some
and confidence.
Confidence of, I'm going to be okay while you go figure this out. That's true self-confidence and love for yourself, you know. So there's that, and then there's the one, well, no, this just isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
And what's 3 things?
So I'll say 3 things and then you say 3 things.
Sure.
Great. And they can walk away with some value. So number 1, I would say stop focusing on should I stay or should I leave. That would be the first thing, and continue to keep the focus on your own change and transformation, because whether you should stay or whether you should leave will just be a byproduct of who you become. So the first thing is stop focusing on should I stay or should I leave, and instead focus wholeheartedly on your inner growth, on continuing down the path of this. Number 2, find a community. Find a community, connect with a community. It is so, for me, that was vital in my process, because I was not surrounded by people who were talking about this kind of crazy woo-woo personal development stuff. In fact, most people, think you're in a cult or whatever. You're weird, you change, whatever. So find a community. Number 2, a like-minded community that you can share this with, people that you can share it with, because that's going to fuel that voice. That's going to fuel your fire to continue down the path. And I would say number 3, get quiet, like meditate, and not just necessarily meditate, should I stay or should I leave, but just get quiet. Start practicing listening to that inner voice. That inner voice will always guide you. It's when I chose to leave out all the other outside voices and instead listen to my own, it leads me every single time if I'm willing to listen. So that would be my 3 tips.
All right, so my 3 things are probably similar. I guess first is to, try to really honor yourself. And I love the get quiet, because I think there is so much judgment, doubt, and fear in our minds that just kind of run constantly. The getting quiet part can help you see through that fear and doubt, and you may be seeing it bigger than it actually is, right? I have that tendency to do that. So that I like getting quiet, because that will tend to slow the roll down. And then I would think for sure to, keep going. Find community is, I think, probably it has to be number 1, because when somebody else is going through or is in that situation, it can shine a lot of light into the dark areas. And the dark areas that you can't quite see what's going on, that's hard. That's hard to navigate. So definitely community, because again, shining light in dark areas. really big. And be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. And, seriously think about it.
So
You're,
good.
10 years in the future, when all of it's over, 5 years in the future, when whatever decision you're going to make, who are you going to be in that 5 years, in that 7 years, in that 10 years? Are you going to say, man, I wish I never had done that? Or are you going to say, wow, this has opened leaving this cage of who I was and stepping out into this light now of who I now am, was it worth it? And really write out your best life of what is your partner like? If you write out the partner 10 years from now that pretty much describes the partner you're with, then ain't a whole lot there, right? But if it's totally different because you're totally different, then that's a different reality. So I think
I love that.
The two big ones are, for sure, community and be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Have the courage to be
Yeah.
honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because, man, there's nothing worse. And, I've lost both of my parents, and watching people move on from this journey that they've been on for their whole life. And are they happy with their decisions? And did they do enough? And did they die the person that they were proud to be? And again, one of my greatest questions is, what do you want people to say at your funeral about you? Now it depends on who you ask, because if it's a person you love, they might not have the best things. But if the voice that really matters there is yours, that's the one. And we had to do that. And, a lot of people were affected. Kids were affected. And, to see them now in the strength that has given them, right? The strength that they have had to face hard things. And that is where the lessons are, man. That's where the growth is. And to watch our kids now, today, it just blows me away. Like, I don't know if I would ever, I don't know. I never really looked at it, I guess. But, on this, I knew I went through hard things, and it made me stronger, and it, basically led to the life I live. So what hard things are in store for them, that they can do the same thing, because those hard things suddenly don't become hard anymore. They're just looked at as opportunities for your greatest growth.
I love that.
So there you go. I think that's perfect. I think that's a perfect place to end. Yes?
Absolutely. So again, wow, 45 minutes
I know.
gone. How does that
you
happen?
get yapping and forget about it.
Is that so?
Maybe.
Is that the common practice?
Common. See.
All right. So 45 minutes, you got that. Hopefully that helped you guys. Like I said, I know it's a really, really, it can be really challenging situation. Hopefully we were able to offer you some value and shed some light on it, as we have been through the very same circumstances. And, if you're wondering if it's worth it, I know we can both tell you 100-fold. It's 1,000 times worth it. It's always worth it to listen to your own inner voice and then take action on that. So thank you for listening to another episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and, put it in the comments. Are you struggling with this right now? What has been ways you've navigated a relationship after having a spiritual awakening? And let us know if this helped. Until next time.
That's it.
See ya.